we are going to transform some traditional holiday side dishes into unique showstoppers. Christmas roasted Brussels sprouts and an Italian sausage and pepper stuffing. These dishes will not only wow your guests, but they were made stress-free with Instacart's speedy delivery in as fast as 1 hour, meaning less time in the grocery store and more time celebrating. And to sweeten the deal, Instacart is offering free delivery on your first 3 orders with just a $10 minimum. Additional terms apply. Time to elevate your side dish game and make this holiday one to remember. But enough talking. Let's get cooking. All right, to get this recipe rolling, we got to do a little bit of prep. We got our green and red bell pepper, our yellow onion, we got some celery, and about 10, maybe 12 cloves of garlic. Again, this wouldn't be Chef Ange's signature recipe if it didn't have too much garlic. So with all of these vegetables, we're gonna cut them very similarly. We're gonna put a small to medium dice on everything, and we're going to mince the garlic. The next thing we got to do is pre-crumble this sausage. So anytime you're working with brown meat and you want to get it into a crumble, I always advocate breaking it up by hand. It's going to save you a lot of work over the stove. Here I got some pre-ground Italian sausage. You can use the stuff inside the casings. I would just remove the casings first and do the same thing that I'm about to do here. And all I'm trying to do is just take it from being just one solid block into just like little boulders, and then we'll crumble it up a little bit more inside the skillet. So now that all of our ingredients are prepped, let's take them over to the skillet and start to cook the stuffing. All right, to this 13-inch cast iron skillet, I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil. And now I'm going to add the crumbled sausage. So I'm going to spread this out in the pan, and I'm not going to crumble it too much at first. I really want to get some good browning on the outside of these chunks. So I'm just going to spread it around the pan so it's got some nice surface area contact. And then once it does, I'm going to leave it alone until I start to see some brown crispy edges. Once I start to get a little bit of color on the outside of these, I'm going to start to just mix them and mash them around and start to go into a smaller crumble. I think this is crumbled enough, so let's start adding our vegetables. So we'll start off with the onions. Start to mix those in. Once those have gotten a chance to soften up a little bit, because I want those a little bit softer than the peppers, now throw the peppers in. Red bell pepper, green bell pepper, celery, season with a little salt, some fresh ground black pepper. We'll also put our garlic in. You always want to delay putting your garlic in, because if you put your garlic in with your other vegetables, it's going to end up burning. You can see that the onions have become a little translucent and the peppers have softened up a little bit. They now have a little gloss to them. So now's a perfect time to put in these petite diced tomatoes out of a can. I drained off a little bit of the liquid, but there's still a lot left in there. I'll let this cook for a minute or two. Now I'm going to put in some dried oregano. Always like to save my dried herbs for as late as possible in the cooking process. And lastly, we're going to put in a splash of some white wine vinegar. This smells absolutely unreal right now. So now let's take this off the heat and we're going to assemble our stuffing, and this is going to go inside the oven. So now let's dump our cast iron skillet out into this bowl. And everything's gonna go back in, so it doesn't need to be super clean, but let's get out as much as we can. Now let's add a couple cups of breadcrumbs. And these are seasoned breadcrumbs. Maybe you got some old bread that you can use and just throw in some seasoning. Now I got 2 types of cheese here. So this is some pizza cheese, which is a combo of some mozzarella and provolone. This is the pre-shredded stuff that I use to make my daughter's pizzas. So you can get this right out of the shredded cheese aisle. And here's some sharp cheddar that we used in my Wendy's chili recipe. So we're gonna take those and dump those in. I'm also gonna take some of this basil and I'm just gonna hand tear the leaves right in there. This basil is gonna complete that whole Italian sausage, peppers and onions flavor profile. It really pairs nicely with the tomatoes too that we put in. And we don't have to be super exact, you just tear the leaves up, throw them in there. And now before I add my broth, I'm gonna try to give this a little bit of a mix. The bread cubes are going to absorb some of the moisture from the sausage and peppers. And then we can decide how much broth we're gonna need. So here I got some low sodium chicken broth. I'm just gonna splash in there a little bit at a time. Maybe just a little more. This isn't even done yet and looks and smells absolutely wonderful. So now before we return the stuffing back to the skillet, I'm gonna butter the inside of it. And I want to make sure we're getting all the way to the rim because this thing's going to be overstuffed. The cast iron skillet's still pretty warm, so as I just rub this pat of butter over the inside of it, it melts. So now let's carefully return this stuffing mixture into the cast iron skillet. And the reason I did it this way is I would have never been able to mix all of this inside the cast iron skillet without spilling it all over the stove. So if we mix it in the bowl and then transfer it back over, no mess. So before this goes in the oven, we're gonna sprinkle on a little bit more of the cheese, and this is just both cheeses all mixed up. Not too much, I really want the stuffing to pop through, so maybe just a big pinchful or 2. And then we're gonna take a couple of these little chunks of butter and just scatter these right over the top. And now this is gonna go in our preheated oven for anywhere between 15 to 25 minutes until the top is nice and golden brown. So while that's browning in the oven, I'm gonna trim up some of these scallions that we're gonna use to garnish the top of it. These green scallions are gonna really add a really nice pop of color to this dish. So when you drop it on the table, people are gonna get really excited. This looks unreal good. Now let's take some of those scallions that we cut up and give them a sprinkle on top. And you can say goodbye to boring stuffing with this one because look how good this looks.
Now before we try this dish, let's make our Christmas roasted Brussels sprouts.
Let's clean up some of these Brussels sprouts and cut them in half. So I'm just gonna clip off the end as close as possible and then split it. Any loose leaves that come off that might be a little raggedy, we'll get rid of those. And now we'll do the same for all these Brussels sprouts. So now I'm gonna drizzle these with some olive oil, some of my base seasoning, which is a blend of garlic powder, onion powder, salt, and pepper, and a little bit of smoked paprika. And now I'm gonna get in there with my hands and just give these a nice thorough mix. So now we're gonna spread these on the baking tray. And I'm making sure I'm spreading them out nice and wide, trying to get as much space as possible in between. Some up, some down. Some of the leaves are gonna come off, and that's gonna be great because it's gonna have a lot of different textures and some pockets of color. But we wanna make sure that these are able to get some color both on the top and on the bottom. So once these are nice and spread out, they are ready for the oven. These are gonna go in the oven for anywhere between 25 to 35 minutes, and I'm gonna spin them around about halfway. Now let's make a super simple honey mustard sauce while those Brussels sprouts are in the oven. So we're gonna start off with some Dijon mustard. Next going in is some honey. Now we're gonna put in a little apple cider vinegar for some acidity. And season with a pinch of salt and some fresh ground black pepper. We're also gonna add a little bit of olive oil. And now give it a mix until it's well incorporated. Give that a little taste. So good. And now let's open up this pomegranate and get some of the seeds out. And now once that's scored, I should be able to twist this pomegranate open. Once the pomegranate is open, I'm gonna take a wooden spatula and just whack the back of it, and the seeds will start to fall out. Periodically, I can just touch it with my hand and get some of the seeds. Watch out, these things stain everything. As I'm removing them with my hand, I'll remove some of the peel and do the same whack and remove. This helps loosen them up. And you can completely skip this step just by buying some pre-seeded pomegranate seeds that have already been removed from the peel. And we're just gonna use a couple to dress this up at the end. But while I'm doing this, I'm just gonna peel the whole thing, and then we'll have some pomegranate seeds to snack on throughout the week. These Brussels sprouts have beautiful color on top of them. We're gonna let them sit for a minute or two and cool down before we address them with that honey mustard. So now we'll take our parchment paper and aluminum foil. And before I dress these Brussels sprouts, I wanna show you one. Let's take a look. See how this Brussels sprouts got a little color on the top, and then the bottom that was in contact with the pan, that's also got some really nice color. That's when you know your Brussels sprout is well cooked, and I already know this is nice and tender on the inside, and you can see it's got a nice crunch on the outside. So now we'll take our honey mustard sauce and drizzle this right over the top. Give that a mix. So now we're going to transfer these dressed Brussels sprouts into our serving bowl, making sure we're not making a big mess. And now to garnish these, we're gonna sprinkle on a little fresh chopped parsley. Some of these pomegranate seeds. And this sliced and crumbled Parmesan Reggiano cheese. And now, how amazing do these Brussels sprouts look? Absolutely unbelievable. These sides look absolutely spectacular. I would be super excited if these were on my holiday table. Let's check them out. First up, let's check out that amazing sausage and pepper stuffing. And now look at this side piece. Let me turn this around without dropping it. So look, we spread the butter, and now you got that nice crust on the outside. This is gonna taste absolutely unbelievable. And with this, it's easy to get everything on one bite. We mix it up really nice. Let's go. I'm never making traditional stuffing ever again. This is gonna be the new stuffing forever, and no one will ever say anything about it. This is so good. This tastes like the stuffing that would be the equivalent of like a sausage and pepper sandwich. Super flavorful, really nice like stuffing texture. This would be amazing next to anything, soaking up the juices on the plate. You could definitely serve this with turkey, and boring turkey wouldn't be so boring if it was sitting next to this. I know I made it. That's the best stuffing I ever had, ever. When you make it, you'll say the same thing. Let me know that in the comment section after you make it. Now let's check out some of these spectacular Brussels sprouts. I mean, these look super good. The Parmesan cheese, the pomegranate seeds, honey mustard dressing, the caramelized Brussels sprouts, so good. Let's go 2 scoops. Now let's try to get a little bit of everything in one bite. The pomegranate seeds, the Brussels sprouts, those hunks of Parmesan. Put that hunk of Parmesan right on top. It is unbelievable how these flavors all come together. The sweetness and the tartness of the pomegranate seeds, the sharpness of that Parmesan cheese, the sweetness and the savoriness coming from that honey mustard sauce, the earthiness from those like charred Brussels sprouts. This is fantastic. I thought my bacon and Brussels sprouts was good. This is out of this world, so good. Oh man. These side dishes were so good. If you like this video, check out my traditional sausage and rice stuffing or my bacon and Brussels sprouts. I'll see you there. Thanks.